I would love to see inspiration and ideas for small spaces with big impact, especially kitchens and bathrooms. This is a really good one. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Geri O'Toole. I'm an interior design business owner and have recently started this YouTube channel where I want to share with the interior design community and enthusiasts all about interior design. Today I wanted to answer a lot of your questions. So I put a question box on Instagram and you asked questions in some of those, and also you left some comments on my last video, which I'm looking forward to answering. So we will get stuck in with the first question. Love your videos, Geri. Would love to see more home tours and more videos on where you can source the beautiful items you style your projects with. So the first point in that is home tours. I think a lot of you said you love the home tours. We absolutely love them too, but we have to wait for some projects to be finished. We can't video all of them, but we do have a few planned this year. So I'm hoping our next YouTube video is going to be a project we're completing in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that. In relation to the beautiful items I style within my projects. So in any of the videos we share on YouTube, we actually put in a really big caption on it. So if you click into that, there is loads of the products and the links and where you can buy them. I would love to see inspiration and ideas for small spaces with big impact, especially kitchens and bathrooms. This is a really good one. Sometimes I like working with small spaces because you have to work that bit harder to make it work. I'm going to show you some imagery of a few bathrooms I've designed and take you through what created the impact. In bathrooms, especially if they're small spaces, I feel like that's the place you can embrace a little bit of color. So I'm showing you my WC at home. It has a color drench on the walls. So I've used this beautiful green paint from Curator Paints, which is an Irish brand. I painted that on the walls, on the stone for texture, and on the ceiling. And then I used my focal point as that viola marble sink, which is quite a statement, but it is a small space, so it just goes to show that even in small spaces you can still get impact. Another one I wanted to show you was in this Hill House project. So they had a small WC downstairs and we literally painted the walls white, but we put a checkerboard pattern on the floor, so that brought in some impact. And then we contrasted those white walls with a wooden vanity unit, which warmed it up beautifully. One other project I'm going to show you is in the Connemara project. In the two WCs in that project, we actually just did a combination of paneling with wallpaper. And the good thing about paneling in a small space, and sometimes people get concerned about using paneling in small spaces because they feel like it's going to close it in more, but actually it breaks up the wall. So if you have a half paneling or one wall of paneling, it just makes the whole room feel larger, and you can paint either your paneling dark and do a lighter wallpaper, or do your light paneling, so paint it in a bright color with a bright wallpaper, and that can leave it feeling light, bright and airy. Love any content you produce, Geri, such a talented lady. Thank you. I'd like to see dining room and bedroom ideas. Okay, dining room and bedrooms. Bedrooms can often be totally overlooked in projects, and actually, like, a bedroom is really important, especially, you know, kids' bedrooms or your main primary bedroom. We spend a lot of time sleeping, so it's nice to have a nice environment. So here are the tips I would consider if I was decorating a bedroom. Try to create a focal point in your bedroom. In my own bedroom, I had one really large wall, and it was about, I don't know, five or 6 meters long, even longer maybe. And it just felt really bland if I did nothing on that wall. So I chose a textured wallpaper by Philip Jeffries in the color Chinchilla, and I just love the depth it brought to the room, and it breaks up having a wall that feels very long in the space. So wallpaper behind your headboard could be a great idea for a bedroom. And also think about how you're going to light the room. So I did dropped pendants, and that can really help contrast that darker wall when they're lit and make a nice lighting scheme as you enter the room. So that would be a couple of tips to consider if you're designing your bedroom space. In another project, I did a giant ceiling light, a Noguchi style ceiling light, and that became a really big feature in the room. So don't be afraid to play with different features and make a statement in your bedroom, because then it'll feel a little more interesting. The other thing about dining areas is we're decorating a formal dining room at the moment. It was a really big, sizable room, had lots of natural light, and to make it visually interesting, because we had so much wall space, what we did was broke up the wall space with paneling. So we did nice little sections of beading, and what we've put into those sections is this beautiful silk and embroidered wallpaper, and we combined that with a colour drench of a colour called Roman Plaster by Little Green, and the wallpaper is from Fromental. They do the most beautiful wallpaper. So play with wallpaper. It doesn't have to be on every wall. You could do it in sections in the paneling like I'm showing you here in this current project. And another interesting thing you could do in a dining area is, it doesn't just have to be a dining table with 6 chairs. You can mix it up. So in this project I'm showing you in the estate, I did a dining table with really interesting bespoke chairs, which I covered in an interesting fabric that had like a pattern on it. And then at the other side of the table, a sofa that's covered in a completely different fabric, so contrasting kind of green fabric, and that just makes it a little bit more visually interesting and inviting. So play around. Maybe you do 2 chairs, one either end of the dining table, that are different from the other dining chairs, and that will make it feel more dynamic and interesting. Okay, this is a great question. It would be good to see how to style smaller or awkward spaces. Example, sloped ceilings in bedrooms, or how to maximize space. I love this because a lot of us can have awkward spaces to work with, or sometimes I'd see a lot of clients coming to me and they might have smaller areas in their homes, and they do nothing with them or even try to do much with them themselves because they feel they're too small to really get any impact from. And actually, you can get quite a lot of impact even from a small space. I'm going to show you some examples of a project we did, which was like an Irish country cottage that a family of 4 wanted to use when they come to Ireland. And we had to work really hard with the space because it was a cottage, so we had to use whatever space was available and make the most from it. So I'm going to show you a picture of the mudroom. I love designing this space. So it actually had a slope ceiling, and the beams that you can see were existing beams, so we needed to work around them. And we added this cabinetry that housed the washer and dryer stacked. You can see that actually with the sloped ceiling in there, we made the most of it by stripping back the beams and hanging a really big feature light. I think that if you have a sloped ceiling and you have enough space to hang a good feature light, it can look amazing because it kind of draws your eye up to that nice ceiling height. And then the other thing you can see in this project is there was basically the kitchen, even though it was sizable, it wasn't going to be enough to store all the food and everything for this family's needs. So we made a little nook in the kitchen of a walk-in pantry, and you can see we actually did an arch around it to make it visually interesting. We also added a fun wallpaper. So don't be afraid to use wallpaper in small spaces. They can really make them visually interesting and give some impact in the space. And one other area I want to talk about in that project was the bedroom, because in the bedroom they had a sloped ceiling, and actually we did like a tree wallpaper on this sloped ceiling, and it just made it really interesting and drew your eye up to notice the ceiling and make it a really good impact of visual interest in the space. So don't be afraid to think about wallpaper or even painting the ceiling in a different color. That can create great impact in a smaller space. Okay, next question is, would love to see some content for interior design of smaller homes and how to style a narrow dark hallway or small living room. Narrow, long, dark hallways are often a bugbear of many clients. They are a tricky space to design, but with a few tricks you can definitely make the most out of it. One of the things I like to do in narrow, long hallways is sometimes if you don't have much ceiling height, you might just use recessed spotlights, and actually if you added picture lights to each part of the walls, it can push out the dimension of the space. So rather than this downlight overhead, having the picture lights over either family photos or artwork can really push the walls out and light the walls up and artwork really softly. So that's a great one. I actually use that as well in my own home. Another one I like to do, especially if it's a long, narrow, dark hallway, is paneling. So in this picture I'm showing you, we used a half paneling and we actually painted the woodwork, so the doors, the architraves, the skirting and the paneling all in one color. We used this nice fresh blue color from Zoffany in this project, and you can see by doing that and then painting the upper walls lighter and the ceiling lighter, it actually gives a little bit of a break in the space and actually makes it feel brighter than it is, because we've kept the lighter color on the top of the paneling and the ceiling. So that's another great one. Another trick you can use is mirrors. Mirrors are great for opening out spaces. So if it's a particularly dark nook, you can use mirrors to bounce the light as well. The second part of that question talks about living spaces. So I'm showing you a photo of a small living space. We were limited on space in this room, but I think the key for me in a space like this is actually go larger with your furniture. So think about, you know, if you've one decent wall, but the rest of the living room is quite small, fill that wall with a good, generous size sofa. Don't go too clunky on the arms or the body of the sofa. Think about nice, neat arms on the sofa, and that will help make the space feel bigger. And also in this space, there was a tiny little recessed nook. And whenever you've nooks or awkward spaces, think about building in some fitted furniture and backlighting it, because immediately you get atmosphere and it feels considered and it makes the most out of those awkward little spaces. So Geri, as my husband and I get older, we're interested in low maintenance designs for kitchens and bathrooms especially. Anything to keep things simple but beautiful and easy to maintain. That's a really common question I get asked a lot for a lot of our clients. Some of them might be doing their holiday home, so it's a second home and they don't want to have to worry about cleaning it and maintaining it, and they want their kids to come and use it even when they're not there. So some things you can do is look to the materiality of the project. So for example, on worktops, even though my personal favorite is natural materials, sometimes you have to leave a man-made material win out because the practicality really suits the client. So in this kitchen, in this property, it's a holiday home and we just used a simple white quartz, and we put lots of personality into the rest of the kitchen so that it didn't feel too boring. But this is a great material. It's silestone, so you get a really long stain-proof guarantee. It's super easy to maintain, and so that suits low maintenance style living. Another one on bathrooms, I'll show you actually my own bathroom at home, because what I used in this bathroom is I did mix it up with some materials that aren't stain-proof, but in the really heavy duty areas like the actual walk-in shower, I used a material called Decton. So it's a man-made material, and in the shower, even though it's a really wide wall, there's only one little join in the center. And that one join means much less grout lines. So when you're cleaning it, the less amount of grout lines you have, obviously the less amount of dirt that can gather in these areas. So if you want low maintenance, something like a very large format tile could be perfect in a bathroom because you have minimal grout lines and minimal place for dirt to gather. Okay, one of your questions is, I would be very keen to hear your ideas with examples of window coverings and what works best according to aspect, sunlight, heat efficiency and climate. What a great question, but what a big subject too. We get asked questions all of the time in our studio about the best way to dress windows. It's a big issue for a lot of people, depending on their architecture and what kind of windows they have in. It's a huge consideration. So actually looking at this question, I do think I'm going to probably do a full YouTube video on just window coverings. One of the ladies in my team is super on window coverings. She has like 30 years experience just on window coverings. So maybe when I'm doing that video, I'd bring her in because she would have all the answers. But typically what we're using a lot at the moment is voile window dressings. I love a voile window dressing because it lets the light into the space, but it can also create the coziness. So we definitely need coziness in our open plan or very heavily glazed architecture in Ireland because our climate wouldn't be the best in the winter time. At the moment, I'm sitting in my living room that has basically 2 full walls of glass, and it's my main living room. So in the dark evenings when we come home from work or in the height of winter, I like the idea of being able to pull a window dressing and making it feel super cozy. So I did a textured voile in the space, and what I did was I sunk a ceiling track into the ceiling and wired it so that you can just push a button and they can close in the evening, and it's perfect for coziness. So that does help with heat in the room as well. Then the other thing you're asking about is heat efficiency. To be honest, I'm not brilliant on that kind of heat efficiency stuff. In most of the projects we're in at the moment, they're all very newly rated, well insulated homes. So sometimes the challenge can be actually with a lot of glazing that it can get too hot in rooms. So again, a whole topic I need to cover. So thank you for your question. It has inspired me to maybe do a full video on this. So the next question is, would love to see options for different budgets. This is a great question. As interior designers, we're a luxury interior design, residential interior design company. So we do work with quite large budgets sometimes, but there is always an ability to go high-low with your budget in rooms. So we might have a mix of some accessories from Zara Home, but then a very high-end sofa. And I love that mixture of combining budgets. There are so many great companies out now that you can order online from, like H&M Home, Marks and Spencer's Home. Zara Home is killing it in my opinion because they're doing some collaborations with designers I absolutely love. Also myself personally, when I was decorating my home, I went to antique shops, looked on antique auctions online. I got a beautiful pair of lamps that, you know, if I was buying them at retail price would have probably been 5 times the price of what I paid for them because I picked them up in an auction. So I think just having an eye out to what's out there that somebody else doesn't want maybe, and snapping up those bargains can make for a very interesting interior. So it doesn't always have to cost a lot. And simple things we use in interiors, like a really tall plant in a room. You could buy a beautiful plant and nurture it in the room. That can bring a lot of life into the space, and you could just uplight it with a little uplight you buy on Amazon, and straight away you've some visual interest in the room. So it doesn't always have to be about the price you pay, it's about the style of pulling it together. Advice on kitchen worktops and repainting kitchens. So love paint because it can be such a quick way to give a new lease of life to a space. So if you are painting your kitchen, remember that when you get a sample pot in the local paint shop, to make sure it's in the finish that you're going to paint the kitchen in. Because often I see people would use like an emulsion sample, and that's going to appear darker than what the same color would in the finish on a kitchen, because that's going to reflect the light more. So if I'm repainting a kitchen, I would try and get the painter to do a full door in my chosen colors so that I can actually see it in the space. And that allows you to bring the sample, lay it out flat, put your worktop options beside it and see how they're complementing each other. So that's a great way to pick your kitchen scheme that's going to be effective. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure you like and subscribe if you like this channel. We will have another video for you next month, and we're hoping that will be a home tour. Hope you enjoyed the answers to the questions, and if you comment, I always try and answer every single one of them. So if you have any questions, pop them in the comments below and I'd be delighted to answer you. Okay, see you soon. Bye.